Chemical risk management is essential to protect the health and safety of workers by preventing exposure to hazardous substances. It is necessary to know the substances used and to adopt effective preventive measures. A safe working environment depends on a combination of training, adequate controls, and continuous attention. Preliminary risk assessment. The presence of materials such as lime, cement, paints, adhesives, and chemicals on construction sites and in the workplace poses significant risks if not managed correctly. It is essential to identify the substances present, provide adequate training, and adopt preventive measures to ensure worker safety and comply with current regulations. Assessment. Before introducing chemicals, it is mandatory for the company to draw up a chemical risk assessment. Safety data sheets. The safety data sheet for each substance used must be acquired, analyzed, and stored in the workplace, making it available to all workers concerned. Common hazardous substances. Cleaning chemicals. Ammonia, acetone, denatured alcohol, bleach, descaling acids, industrial detergents. They are used in offices, industries, and healthcare facilities. The risks are corrosion, respiratory tract irritation, flammability, skin irritation. Paints and coatings. Solvent-based paints, resins, primers, enamels. They are used in construction, body shops, manufacturing industries. The risks are inhalation of vapors, allergic reactions, risk of fire. Powder. Wood dust, metal dust, flour. Compressed and liquefied gases. Oxygen, propane, acetylene, carbon dioxide, ammonia. They are used, for example, in welding, refrigeration, laboratories, or chemical processes. The risks are those of explosion, asphyxiation, risk of loss of control during transport. Pesticides and biocides. Insecticides, herbicides, disinfectants. They are used, for example, in agriculture, food industries, or for maintenance of environments. The risks are those of toxicity by inhalation or contact, long-term health impacts. Adhesives and sealants. Epoxy glues, solvent-based adhesives, silicones. They are used, for example, in construction, carpentry, and manufacturing sectors. The risks are those of skin sensitization, inflammation of the respiratory tract. Dangerous biological substances. Mold, bacteria, viruses, blood and body fluids. Present in healthcare environments, laboratories, or food industries. The risks are those of infections, allergies, contamination. Hazardous substances on construction sites. In addition to industrial chemicals, construction sites contain materials that, if not managed correctly, can pose a risk to the health and safety of workers. Let's see together where we find hazardous substances on construction sites. Construction materials. On construction sites, materials such as lime and cement are omnipresent and indispensable for many activities, but they pose significant risks. Lime and cement, for example, can cause skin irritation, dermatitis, and eye damage in case of direct contact. In addition, the dust generated during mixing or application can irritate the respiratory tract, making the use of gloves, dust masks, and protective glasses essential. Another critical material is crystalline silica, found in sand, concrete, and natural stone. Cutting, sanding, or demolition activities release fine dust that, if inhaled, can cause serious respiratory diseases such as silicosis. It is essential to use suction systems and wet surfaces to limit dust dispersion. Asphalt and tar, used for flooring and coatings, also represent a danger. The vapors generated during hot application can irritate the respiratory tract, while contact with the hot material can cause burns. The use of adequate ventilation and heat-resistant personal protective equipment is essential. Adhesives, paints, and sealants. Adhesives and sealants, such as glues and polyurethane foams, are indispensable materials for many construction site applications. However, they can cause skin irritation, allergic reactions, and respiratory sensitization. It is important to use them in well-ventilated areas and wear suitable gloves and masks. Paints and solvents, often used for finishes and surface treatments, release toxic vapors that can be harmful to health. In addition to the risk of inhalation, these materials are highly flammable, increasing the risk of fire. Storing products in sealed containers and in ventilated areas is a fundamental measure, along with the use of filter masks and protective glasses. Additives and engineering gases. Chemical additives, such as accelerators and plasticizers used in cements and mortars, are designed to improve the performance of materials, but their use requires precautions. Contact with these substances can cause skin and eye irritation, while inhaling the vapors can be dangerous. Handling these materials with gloves, goggles, and in ventilated spaces reduces the risks. Compressed gases, such as oxygen and acetylene, are essential for welding and precision cutting. However, if not handled correctly, they can cause explosions or poisoning. It is essential to store cylinders in an upright position, in ventilated areas and away from heat sources, and to use fireproof masks and gloves during operations. Health risks. Working with construction materials, adhesives, and compressed gases poses health risks to workers. Skin irritation and dermatitis are common problems, especially when protective gloves or creams are not used. Respiratory diseases, such as silicosis or inhalation allergies, can result from prolonged exposure to fine dust and toxic vapors. Raising workers' awareness of the use of personal protective equipment and safe working procedures is essential to prevent these problems. Physical and chemical risks. Physical and chemical risks on construction sites are often underestimated. Explosions and fires, for example, can be caused by improper handling of compressed gases or flammable solvents. To reduce these hazards, strict storage and maintenance procedures must be followed. Eye injuries are also common, caused by splashes of cement, paint, or dust particles. Always wearing protective eyewear is a simple but essential measure. Ergonomic and environmental risks. In addition to the immediate risks, there are ergonomic and environmental hazards. Manual handling of heavy bags or bulky materials can cause muscle fatigue and long-term injuries. Appropriate lifting tools and regular breaks help prevent these problems. On the environmental front, failure to properly dispose of solvents, adhesives, and other hazardous materials can cause contamination. Complying with waste management regulations is a fundamental responsibility for every construction site. Chemical storage and handling. Containers. Chemicals must be stored in original containers, clearly labeled and compliant with safety regulations. Hazardous materials. Hazardous materials must be stored in dedicated areas, ventilated, protected from atmospheric agents and accessible only to authorized personnel. Labels. It is prohibited to transfer chemicals into unsuitable or unlabeled containers. Safe use of chemicals. Procedures. Before use, workers must be trained on the specific risks of chemicals and the safety procedures to be adopted. Personal protective equipment. Appropriate personal protective equipment must be worn, which may include chemical-resistant gloves, protective glasses or visors, masks or respirators with filters suitable for the type of substance, e.g. organic vapors, particles, impervious protective clothing, if necessary. Preventive measures. Health surveillance. Workers exposed to chemicals must undergo periodic health surveillance, with specific visits to monitor any effects of exposure. Ventilation. When using volatile chemicals, adequate ventilation must be ensured or, in its absence, localized extraction systems must be used. Eating, drinking, smoking. Eating, drinking, or smoking is prohibited in areas where chemicals are used. Authorized personnel. In the event of handling particularly dangerous substances, the work area must be isolated, with access permitted only to necessary personnel. Chemical waste management. Disposal. Waste resulting from the use of chemical substances must be disposed of in accordance with current legislation, using suitable containers designated for each type of waste. Discharge. The release of chemical substances into the environment is prohibited. Discharge into sewers, soil or waterways. Emergency interventions. First aid. First aid equipment must be available near the areas where chemical substances are used, including emergency shower, eye washer. Neutralization solutions for corrosive or irritant substances. Emergency procedures. Emergency procedures must be in place for the containment and cleanup of accidental spills, with the use of specific absorbent materials. Reporting. Every incident must be immediately reported to the supervisor and documented. Areas where chemicals are used or stored must be marked with clearly visible safety signs. Notices must be posted with operating instructions and behaviors to be adopted to prevent risks. Safety is a priority and every worker is required to respect the rules and report any anomalies or risks. Safety is not a document, it is a commitment. Your life and that of your colleagues are our goal. But also yours.